Let's piss some people off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Iron Spice, the podcast. If you're new here, thank you for being here today. And if you've been with me since the beginning, you already know how much I appreciate you guys. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit the little bell button so you never miss an episode. Today, I'm gonna do something that honestly makes me really excited. This is actually the first episode I am releasing in both English and Spanish on my podcast. This is the 26th episode. And even though I get asked constantly to do my videos in Spanish, I usually keep the podcast in English because the followers that I have are mostly non-Spanish speaking. But this topic is so important and so real and so common that I felt it deserved to be shared in both languages. This is the first of what may become many bilingual episodes because information like this should be accessible to everyone. So, before we dive in, I want to explain something so you're not confused later. There is one word I'm going to be spelling throughout this episode, and that is sex. This is simply because of YouTube's safety filters. The video can get banned or can get flagged, and it could be taken down just because of that word. Now let me tell you what we're going into today, because we're going deep. We're talking about intimacy anorexia. What it really is, why it happens, how it shows up, how it impacts you, the excuses intimacy avoidant partners use, the addictive patterns that replace intimacy, how to identify it in yourself or your partner, how to talk about it, and how healing can actually happen. We're also doing a few exercises to help you understand your situation clearly. This episode is quite deep. It might hit home. So I do advise you that if you need to pause or breathe, to please do so. Sometimes taking in things that are so deep can affect us, and if you need to do that, please do that. Now, without further ado, let's get started with today's topic. Before we go deeper, I want to make something very, very clear. I am not a psychologist. I am not a therapist. I am not a mental health professional. I am indeed a certified life coach, and in my practice, I work with people on relationships, emotional patterns, trauma cycles, generational wounds, family dynamics, communication issues, and personal healing. Basically, what I do is I help people understand why they feel the way they feel, why their patterns repeat, and how their past shows up in their relationships today. That's basically what I do in my practice. Everything I share in my podcast, and especially here, comes from trusted experts, solid research, and years of witnessing these patterns up close through my work and through people that I've seen. And I've also wanted to say this: psychological terms are not meant to be used lightly. Please beware. They are not labels we should throw at people recklessly. Before you call someone intimacy anorexic or use any psychological term on them, please do your research and consider the full context. Mislabeling someone can cause harm, shame, confusion, and unnecessary conflict. So let's be very wary and very careful with the terms that we're throwing out there. This episode is not about diagnosing anyone. It's about giving language to something many people experience but cannot describe. So it is exactly what intimacy anorexia really is. So let's break it down simply. Intimacy anorexia is not an official mental disorder. It's not in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It is not a clinical diagnosis either, so it is not a sickness. It is a relationship pattern, something that a person learned how to do and is used to do. A consistent pattern where one partner withholds intimacy on multiple levels. And for this, you need to learn and know the meaning of what intimacy truly is. It doesn't always mean sex. This can mean avoiding emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, affection, vulnerability, communication, bonding, closeness, and sex. It's not someone being distant once in a while. It's a repeated, predictable avoidance of closeness. And the part that breaks you is this: these partners can be warm, friendly, emotional, talkative, and open with everyone else, but shut down emotionally with you. This is the tricky part. And that contrast is the red flag. Because usually how they look to others is very different to how they are with you. To the outside world, an intimacy avoidant partner looks like many things different than it is to you. For example, it's very kind, very friendly, funny, helpful, patient, supportive, put together. It's the best person ever for everyone else. But when it comes to being with you, when it's behind closed doors with you, they are cold, emotionally distant, quiet, withdrawn, uninterested. They're barely, like, they don't exist. When they're next to you, they don't say a peep. They're unavailable, flat, and totally disconnected. And these it leaves you extremely, extremely confused. You see the version of them the world will never see, and that can make you question your reality. It can make you question your sanity, even if you're crazy or not, because how it feels, it's a true betrayal. How it feels to be with someone who withholds intimacy, it's extremely painful. Being with someone who withholds intimacy feels like loving someone behind a glass. It's like they are next to you, but they're like 100 miles away. It feels like doing all the emotional work, reaching with no response, begging for crumbs, feeling too much, shrinking yourself, feeling ignored constantly, feeling unseen, feeling unwanted, feeling unappreciated, feeling emotionally starved. And that's where the term anorexic comes from, because they're withholding that love from you. Eventually, you're gonna start asking, why am I starving inside my relationship? Why does everyone get their softness but not me? Why does loving them feel lonely? I am loving them, but I feel empty. Silent rejection hurts more than loud rejection because you carry it alone, all by yourself. And there's a whole bunch of reasons as to why this happens, and these are the root causes. Experts who study intimacy avoidance explain that this pattern usually comes from deeper wounds. You need to understand, and you need to try to put yourself in the other side of the coin. What is going on their side? This might be childhood causes like emotionally unavailable parents, homes without affection, being punished or mocked for crying, lack of emotional safety, abandonment, neglect, chaos, survival mode of bringing in a series of lacking on emotional intelligence if they don't work on themselves. Another causes could be relationship causes, cheating in the previous relationship, betrayal, emotional abuse, humiliation, vulnerability used against them, feeling unsafe in connection, partners who shut down on them. They might have experienced these things before or with you that are making them also act this way. These experiences create internal beliefs in them, like it's not safe to get close. If I open up, I'll be abandoned. If I get vulnerable, I'll get hurt. It's safer to stay distant because if I get close, my heart is gonna break. So what do is they protect themselves through avoidance. And there's also unintentional versus unintentional behaviors that they do usually perform. And here's a breakdown of a few of them. Unintentional behaviors that they usually do is emotional shutdown, freezing during emotional moments, feeling overwhelmed by closeness, lack of emotional vocabulary, panic responses, fear of vulnerability. Now there's a part that they do usually intentional behaviors such as rejecting affection, rejecting and withholding sex, ignoring emotional needs from their partner, avoiding conversations, choosing distractions over connection, refusing accountability, pushing you away, and withholding effort on anything that has to do with improving your relationship. Both intentional or non-intentional, they both hurt. But there is a difference. I want to do an exercise with you guys, and we're going to pause and reflect. I'm going to read a set of 2 different questions. Part A is to see if you are with an intimacy anorexic partner. If you answer yes to most of these, you definitely are. Number 1, do you feel alone next to them? Number 2, do they avoid emotional conversations? Number 3, do you initiate most intimacy? Number 4, do they constantly say, I'm tired or I'm stressed? 5, do you feel rejected quietly? 6, do you hold in your feelings? 7, are they more emotionally open with others than with you? 8, do they avoid physical closeness or sex? And 9, do you feel emotionally starved? Take a moment and analyze that, and that will give you a rough idea of what you're going through. Now, let's see if are you the intimacy anorexic partner? The first question is, do emotional conversations overwhelm you? 2, do you freeze when someone expresses feelings? 3, does affection drain you? 4, do you pull away when things get close? 5, do deep conversations feel heavy? 6, do emotional needs irritate or pressure you? 7, Does vulnerability feel unsafe? This is not judgment, it's clarity, and it will give you an idea. Then also, I want to bring how to talk to your partner about this. Yes, you can do it. I know it's hard, but you can do it. It's possible. This is very delicate, but here's how to approach it. Choose a calm moment. Use I feel instead of you never. Say, I learned about something that helped me understand our pattern, and invite them in. Does this make sense to you? Reassure them, because this isn't blame. If they shut down, don't push. Suggest therapy or learning together. Acknowledge their effort when listening. And the fact that you are researching or you're learning and you're even listening to this episode right now, before we move on, I want to say this. There is a reason you look up these terms, a reason you read, a reason you research, and a reason you listen to podcasts like this. A reason you've been trying to understand your relationship better. And that's good. It's good for you to do that research. It's because you love this person. It's because you want this relationship to survive, to thrive, and to grow. It's not because you're looking for an excuse to leave your partner. It's because you want things to change for the better. And it's because you want your forever with this person. There's nothing wrong in you learning so they could learn with you. No relationship is perfect. None will ever be perfect. But two people can work in a relationship and become as happy as possible if both are willing to grow. That is always the best way. You're not researching because you want to label someone. Please make sure you're not doing that. You are researching because you want clarity, peace, connection, and solutions. You're researching because you want this to work, because you don't want to let them go. You love your husband, you love your wife, and that says a lot about your heart. Now, we're also going to talk about the excuses and avoidance patterns that they usually use. Let's talk about something many couples usually overlook. The excuses intimacy anorexic partners use to avoid closeness. And there is a huge list of them. I'm gonna lay down a couple of them because it's impossible for me to cover all of them in this episode. This is not random. This is part of the pattern. The I'm tired excuse. Not once, not occasionally, constantly. No, it's just that I'm tired, I can't talk because I'm tired. Everything becomes I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm drained. I'm overwhelmed. They use that to either hold sex or either have deep, meaningful conversations. It becomes a shield to avoid talking, connecting, hugging, kissing, sex, emotional presence. That's all that is. The work is usually too much. Excuse work becomes a perfect wall. I'm too tired. I had a rough day. I'm stressed. I can't talk right now. I had a long day. My mind is not in the right place. I just blocked everything. This becomes a permanent escape from intimacy. And you might feel like you're doing something wrong for even trying to talk to them after they have had such a rough day. Another thing is phone addiction or scrolling escape. This is a major sign. Another thing that becomes an excuse or that they usually do, phone addiction or scrolling escape. This is a major sign. They're physically next to you but emotionally gone. They're usually checked out, scrolling on TikTok, watching reels on Instagram, replying to DMs, workaholics, lost in their phone, choosing distraction over connection with you constantly. And this can be in so many ways, as in they're constantly in their computer doing God knows what, gaming, or literally just screen escape. Experts explain screens are often used for, and there's different things, emotional numbing, avoidance, stimulation replacement. You see, watching videos, streams, and endless content, anything except connecting with you. What they should supposed to be doing in that moment. There's a time for everything. There's also the hidden addictions and self-gratification patterns that they usually go through. Experts explain that many intimacy anorexic partners rely on hidden addictions as substitutes for real intimacy. So, what does that mean? They're having their kind of intimacy, just not with you. These can include self-gratification, intimate gratification, pornography, fantasy-based stimulation, watching, I don't know, some girls in very small clothes on reels, online content, explicit accounts, and by that you guys know what I mean, visual arousal, addictive scrolling, compulsive fantasy use. These behaviors provide stimulation without intimacy. What does this mean? Pleasure without vulnerability and escape without accountability. So they don't have to take an accountability on anything that they do. This is also called auto-medicating. Medication is not always a drug or a pill. These things medicate what you crave without having to take accountability. Using outside stimulation to avoid emotional closeness. And the most painful part is they may send you explicit content but avoid being intimate with you, which is so ironic. This is not lack of desire. This is fear of intimacy because they lack the skills to be able to be vulnerable. And there are also some relationship patterns that you should know and you should learn. Some of these patterns include roommate dynamic. You feel more like a roommate than a spouse. Excuse loop constantly. One partner carrying all emotional labor. This is extremely painful. Affection disappearing. Silence becoming normal. Loneliness in the relationship. Shrinking yourself to survive emotionally. That means not speaking, not talking because you want to avoid conflict. So what happens if nothing changes? If you talk to them and nothing changes. If nothing changes, the relationship collapses emotionally first. The starving partner becomes insecure, resentful, exhausted, disconnected, confused, and extremely drained. And it's really hard. The intimacy-avoidant partner becomes more and more distant, more numb, more avoidant, and more comfortable in the disconnection. Eventually, someone is gonna leave. Someone leaves emotionally long before they leave physically. And you guys must understand this. When a relationship already you separate from someone, that relationship died a long time ago. And another thing that I want to make clear is healing, it is possible. But healing requires both partners. The person that has always been carrying the emotional weight cannot continue doing this. The intimacy anorexic partner needs to go to therapy, learn emotional language, practice vulnerability, break trauma patterns, address addictive behavior, rebuild trust, work on closeness intentionally. And the starving partner needs to rebuild self-worth, set boundaries, express needs clearly. It needs to stop shrinking. They need to seek support as well. And they need to reconnect with their identity to remember who they really are. Healing doesn't happen from one side only. Both people must show up consistently and at the same time. I'll tell you when leaving becomes the only option. Leaving is not something I encourage lightly. This is not about giving up when it gets hard. I've learned this with time. Relationships required a lot of effort. But there is a point where staying becomes self-abandonment because you're neglecting yourself. You're allowing that neglection that you're suffering with your partner. You're punishing yourself. Staying with someone who refuses to change, refuses to try, refuses therapy, refuses accountability, refuses to grow, and refuses to meet your emotional needs will slowly break you and damage you and leave you with a lot of PTSDs. It drains you, it silences you, it makes you doubt yourself, it makes you question your worth. Am I enough? Am I pretty? It deals with your self-esteem. It makes you feel alone in a relationship. If your partner refuses to work on the followings, their emotional avoidance, their communication, their intimacy issues, their addictions, their trauma patterns, their stonewalling, their inability to connect to you, their lack of effort, and their unwillingness to grow, then staying will make you miserable. Leaving becomes an option when your partner shows through actions, not words, that they're not willing to go to therapy, try couples counseling, speak to a professional, learn about intimacy, practice healthy communication, change avoidance patterns, take responsibility, or make any effort to improve the relationship. If you've already gone through all of this, you cannot carry the emotional weight for two people forever. You cannot heal someone who refuses to acknowledge the wound. That is impossible. You can tell them, you can bring all the information to them, but if they're unwilling to do so, there's nothing you can do. Leaving becomes an act of self-care when staying keeps you in emotional starvation. And for the final message, I really want you guys to think about this. If you are the starving partner, remember and remind yourself you are not too much. You're not dramatic. You're not imagining it. It's really happening. You're not asking for anything unreasonable, and you're worthy of all that. You deserve connection. You deserve affection. You deserve presence. You deserve intimacy. You deserve emotional safety. You deserve to be loved how you like to be loved. Your needs are human. Your heart is valid and you deserve everything that you're asking for. If you are the intimacy avoidant partner, I want you to listen closely. You're not broken. You're not unloving. You are not incapable. But one thing I'm going to say is you do have to do the work. You have a lot of work to do. Avoidance cannot hold a relationship together. You cannot keep shutting down and expect love to thrive. You cannot hide behind excuses and expect connection. And you cannot avoid therapy and expect healing if you're not doing the work. How is this going to work? You must learn emotional skills, practice vulnerability, face your wounds, stop running, and take accountability that you're not perfect or not, and that you need to do the work and that you're willing to do the work. And do both partners. Healing is possible. Connection is possible. A new version of this relationship is totally possible. But only if both people show up. Only if both people grow. Only if both people try. Because one cannot carry the baggage of everything. Love can survive many things, but it cannot survive emotional starvation. If this episode made you feel seen or understood, please share it. Share it with your partner. Share it with a friend. Share it with someone suffering silently. We know a lot of people that are actually going through this. Share it with them. Maybe they'll get to know more about it and they will feel motivated to do more research on their own and to really seek help. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing growth. Thank you for being present with me. And you guys already know we're here, unfiltered, unapologetic, and unstoppable. Until the next one, guys. Love you bunches.
And remember, we're unfiltered, unapologetic, and unstoppable. That's that.